is not something we pollute, we take advantage of, that we rape. The earth is our mother.
That's why we walk with prayer. And if that wasn't true, we wouldn't be standing here.
Nobody thought any politician would have the guts. And I just closed my eyes and said, do it.
We're still going to pursue the legal avenues. I have to leave a footprint.
People, hold your ground. Change is coming now.
Hi, Shannon. Jeff in Vegas. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for covering this. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And I wanted to introduce you to my roommate. This is Asai.
Hello, Asai.
And he's from the Navajo Nation. And where was it you're from?
I'm from Wind Rock.
Oh, wonderful. We have my co-producer, actually, Pearl Daniel Means, is Navajo, and she's from the Salt Clan. And she had wanted to do all of these with us, but her brother passed away actually last week, COVID. So it's horrible.
Oh, yeah, I lost my mom in the last summer to COVID. So.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh.
Well, anyway, I wanted you to meet Asai because he watched the documentary with me, and tell her what you thought.
Yeah, I thought it was very informative, and it also made me want to be more involved in there. But I really like the documentary.
Thank you so much. It's good to hear. I'm always nervous, I portrayed it as I should, in your opinion. So.
Well, you wanted to come on and say hi. You can go now.
Great meeting you.
Small group of Indigenous women, peaceful protest camp against a $3.8 billion pipeline, and it grew to 10,000 people. When did you know you had to grab your camera and record this story?
For me, it was the end of August, which was not long after the call was issued for allies to come and join the women. LaDonna Brave Bull Allard, one of our main cast members, had gone on Facebook actually and said, we need people to come and join us here. And already I was thinking, I should really cover this. I spent a lot of time in Latin America. I was actually living there at the time at which Standing Rock happened. And I was covering all of these human rights violation stories down there, and here this is happening in my own backyard. And so I decided to head up there, and it all moved very quickly from there.
And I watched this unfold on the news nightly, and how much abuse they endured was criminal. It absolutely was criminal.
It was, and I think that's what is going to shock people. I guess there are two things that I think will most shock people about this film. One is just how violent the attack was on these people, from law enforcement, from the Dakota Access Private Security. And then the other thing is the resilience of these women. As I'm sure you noticed in watching the film, it seemed like the more resistance they had against them, the stronger they became, which I don't think is everyone. I don't think everyone would do that. They might even give up at the point at which they're being locked in dog kennels or being shot at point blank range, that sort of thing. And then their surveillance, 24-hour surveillance, was really tough.
And what I was really impressed with was that the many nations heard the call, and they all came to stand with the Lakotas. And with my roommate Asai, he's Navajo, but here in Southern Nevada, it's the Paiute tribe. And he can go to their education center, their medical center, all of that. All the tribes consider themselves as one nation, which I find just so encouraging, inspiring.
Yes, it was the largest gathering of Native Americans in, some people said more than 200 years, others said about 150 years. Either way, it was more than 340 Native nations showed up, including some that hadn't had any communication with each other in many, many years. And in addition to that, people came from around the world. I really, truly met Indigenous people from around the world, and then just general water protector support from everywhere.
And while they were struggling to keep their native lands, their sacred lands, from being abused, but also was one issue, clean drinking water. They didn't want contaminations from the oil pipeline for their future generations.
That's right. And as so many women said during the making of this film and in the film, that it's not just their drinking water. 18 million people depend on the water of the Missouri River as their drinking source. And so they explained that they were fighting not just for their own families, but for all of the families that depended on that waterway.
Was there any times that you feared for your safety? I know you were in some precarious situations, but were there times where you thought,
Yes, I was more concerned with my footage. I was warned that they were confiscating footage. I know someone who had their wrist broken by law enforcement as they were getting their camera seized and stolen. A lot of people had their SD cards taken, that sort of thing. So I was worried about that. We had to take extra precautions and send our footage by FedEx to various locations across the US just to make sure it would be safe. But at Standing Rock, I wasn't as worried as after, when I started getting death threats for covering the story. When we posted our very first video on social media, we got more than 17,000 nasty comments and threats. And that was pretty much everyone who was out there and making news out of it, making it public.
And I love how you not only concentrate on the struggle for the pipeline and for their indigenous lands, but you also saw their struggle with drugs and alcohol and the abuse that they also had, and which I know personally, and I thought that was really eye-opening, because they had solutions on like how we're being exterminated, but it's within our own community.
Right. The reach of colonialism is far and wide. And in addition to things like drugs and alcohol being introduced, the poverty, the death diet, you can't imagine the foods that are available at Standing Rock and elsewhere. But taking a person's language, putting them in boarding schools, forced sterilization, foster care abuses, all of this contributes to really cultural genocide, and in some cases literal genocide. And I heard a lot during the making of this film, this is an old problem, they need to get over it. And if there's one thing that I hope this film does, is that it points out that this is still happening today, and it really, really needs to stop.
And, seeing President Trump sign that Keystone Pipeline, I mean, I was screaming at the television, but the first week that President Biden's in office, reverses it. And also Representative Deb Haaland, the first Native American Interior Secretary. I mean, you could not ask for a more incredible end to your story.
Yes, morale is really much better than it was just a few short months ago. And the women have continued their fight on the front line of the fossil fuel divestment movement. And they've been really successful in getting actually trillions of dollars divested. And they're guardedly hopeful that this new administration will stand with them.
Because there's another documentary I saw last year called Public Trust, which was about the Trump administration selling out Native American lands for oil and mineral rights. And now to have a Native American as the Department of Interior who can just say, no, that's not going to happen. You must have made a wish somewhere. That's only happens in the movies, right?
I think there were a lot of people making wishes and making ceremony. And I'm just really hoping that the right thing happens now.
And tell me about taking your film to Slamdance, having it premiering there.
We're excited about this. This has been a 4.5-year journey for us. We have teams around the world who have worked on this film. It was completely crowdfunded, more than 1,700 donors from 40-some countries. It is a US-Finland co-production between my company, a company called Play Art Productions, and Solar Films. Finnish Film Foundation, YLE, others got behind it, which is really exciting. And then everyone just waited, because it was a really long story to tell. As you noticed, we're not just telling the story of Standing Rock, we're telling it in a greater context of the abuses that the women have endured throughout the last 125 plus years, and 525 plus years. And so we're just really, really excited for people to see it, and hoping that the response is great, of course.
Well, it was an amazing documentary. Thank you for your call to action, and good luck at Slamdance, and let's talk again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.